Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you. Um, Thank you for coming. I mean, it's a Saturday, 5 p.m. I think we could be somewhere else, right? Like we could have a nice glass of beer in a pub. It's gonna happen, right, Eric? Right? Yeah. Um, but before starting the weekend, um, I'd like to talk about a very important, um, well, not issue, but situation in virtual production. Um, Now, I also have to say a disclaimer here. So basically, the last, you know, 2 days, I'm pretty sure you've seen some amazing visuals and great, references and projects, and they were all like shiny and beautiful. Well, unfortunately, this presentation is going to be text heavy. So you're gonna be seeing like an old school, text heavy presentation. I'm sorry about that, but this is going to be about the research, the results of a 4 years project's first year research. So I can't make it shiny. I can't make it really visual, but I do hope that you're gonna sort of like get some important and useful information out of this presentation. And as you can all hear, it's gonna be in English. So if you don't speak English, I'm sorry about that. I can't really speak Spanish, so that's what we have to deal with at the moment. So it's still not too late to leave the room. I'm not gonna be offended if you expected some amazing demo reels and everything. No, this is not going to be the presentation about those. So, in any way, let's start it. So, who am I? I'm Zoltán Bató, originally from Hungary, but I do have a very extensive international expertise. I worked in the US, in France, in Australia, in Hungary, and now I'm working in the Netherlands in a small but very exciting city called Breda, and I'm a producer at Breda University of Applied Sciences, which is basically a very um, exciting university because although it's in a small city in the Netherlands, it's actually the number three top video games universities in the world. So it's good to see what we are doing there and what we are so like focusing on. And in my presentation, I'm actually going to showcase you the latest results of a very interesting EU-funded project. Um, yeah, so I just mentioned Breda University of the Applied Sciences. We do have quite a few academies. One is obviously the one I'm actually working at, is the Games Data Science and AI Academy. But it's also important to mention that we are not just dealing with digital domains, but we are also having a foot in tourism, leisure, events, hotel facility, and logistics and built environment. And the reason why I mentioned those is that you're going to see that the research what we did discovered that rather than just focusing on the digital sector, the digital domain, it's quite important to see what we as digital creators can actually do for other domains and other academies as well. As I already mentioned, we are number three. We were number three. Well, we are number three in 2025 in the gaming. Again, game development based on the rankings of the game education, and also we are a gold academic partner for Epic. We are also an authorized institution for Houdini. And also Ubisoft and Sony are one of like some of the key partners we are dealing with on a daily basis. Within the university, there's a research and development lab called Cradle. It was established in 2016. Now we have a team of 30 professionals, and it's a multidisciplinary team. We are actually trying to help the education rather than just sort of like doing projects for the sake of doing projects. We are quite lucky in terms of being able to fail and fail fast. So our role is not to do the best of the best and spend like huge amount of money on everything. Our goal is to discover the do's and don'ts for education. So educational institutions don't have the opportunity to iterate fast and come up with new curricula every single year, but we do. We can actually come up with solutions which can work, and also realize what will not work, and provide information to the educational institution. We do have a virtual production stage. I guess that's why I'm here, right? Like without a VP stage, it would be quite difficult to talk about virtual production. And to be honest, we were the first one on continental Europe to have a virtual production stage, thanks to RU Visuals, because RU Visuals headquarters is in the Netherlands, so we like already had a very good relationship with the company. And in 2021, we had the opportunity to set up our own stage, which is relatively small, 8 meters times 3.5, but it's actually great for the students, because they also have to learn to work with limitations. Having a huge stage seems like a good idea, but it actually creates new problems, because then the students might think that that's what they're gonna get in every production, rather than focusing on the solutions based on the limitations. We have a megapixel processor doing the heavy work, Vicon tracking, custom built brain bar, and we are capable of using Unreal Engine, Chaos, and Estimulate to provide the content for the wall. Let's see the latest reel. Oh, actually, I'm gonna show you some reel. Well, okay, again, this is not gonna be like the AAA quality, but like we are an education institution, so our goal is more about doing research and also to try out new things. So some of the visuals I'm not really proud of, but like that actually helps students to get a better understanding what works and what doesn't. So let's just see it. I hope the audio will work. And not. Okay. I sort of knew that. Let's see if we can quickly fix it. Yeah? Okay. Still nothing? Okay, thank you so much. That was a quick fix. I think I just remove this. I'm not gonna sit down. Yeah. Another important thing to mention is the virtual production gathering. So basically, it's an annual event in Europe, in Breda. It's quite similar to the Virtual Production Summit here. It's a bit smaller, more professional oriented. This year we had 2 days, and next year, next April, we're gonna have 3 days, one for education, one for industry, and one for master classes. So we're gonna have quite an amazing speaker lineup. Well, some of those speakers you already know because they already had a presentation here. So Eric and Jamie are going to present some amazing, presentations there. Also, we're gonna have Carlos there, Laura Frank from the US as well, and Fitzgerald Jones from New Zealand. And there's going to be way more presenters coming to Breda. So if you are planning a European visit, I would suggest you to plan it for April next year and come over and see what we are doing there. And yeah, one important thing. So we recorded all the presentations from the last years of virtual production gatherings. So they are publicly available. They are online. You can find them on YouTube. Some of them are absolutely amazing and still the most relevant information what you can find. So yeah, feel free to have a look at it. I'm not gonna skip until okay, yeah, I think I've seen all of you taking a picture. Great. Okay, we can continue. And yeah, just another reel. So still, again, you see some interesting videos. This is going to be the last video though. So after that, like heavy text. So yeah, just watch it, enjoy it, and then you're not going to enjoy any further visuals. So this is this year's Virtual Productions Gathering reel.
Is that you're really bringing educators and practitioners together.
And then I was honestly quite excited by the presentation of the students of the theses themselves. It was super cool.
I'm really glad to be experiencing Breda as a city. Oh my God, this place is so beautiful. I love exploring the city center and wandering around, and I love the energy that people have here.
So yeah, hope to see you next year in Breda. I just got a message, thank you, yesterday that Chaos is going to sponsor the mixer party again. So that's great. And just before starting my presentation, so this is still the introductory part, so sorry about that. It became a bit long. But before getting into the real topic, let me quickly just show you one more slide about another EU-funded project. So it's called Virtual Production Studio Network. And basically, the idea behind this project was that it was quite difficult to find relatable and useful and up-to-date information about workflows in virtual production, about teaching materials. So then we decided, hey, let's just try to get some EU money for it and do it ourselves. And that's what we did. So we created a ton of teaching materials and workflow solution white papers and just put them online. So yeah, just scan the code and all the information what's on that website is really usable and available. You can take it, you can modify it, you can do whatever you want with it. So again, it's public domain. Just we want them to be used as much as possible. And finally, let's talk about the Avenue project. I mean, that's why I'm here to talk about that. So basically, you guys are going to be the first one to hear about the first year research result of the Avenue project. So Avenue project is basically a 4 years long EU funded project. It's a multi-country innovation project which tries to strengthen the virtual production, XR, animation, games, and visual storytelling ecosystems by connecting education, industry, and research. So we are trying to focus on talent development, shared infrastructure, and future-ready workflows by developing training pipelines, producing shared research standards and best practices guidelines. Also, we are trying to connect education with industry needs, and last but not least, to support innovation in real-time workflows, virtual humans, and sustainable practices. So that was the dry part, and now let's see what the research showcased. So yeah, before going there, as I mentioned, the 5 ecosystems, like different countries are leading the different ecosystems, and at Breda, we are leading the virtual production ecosystem, both from an educational point of view and also as an ecosystem driver. All right, so we started the research with a literature review, and well, we sort of realized quite quickly there's not much out there. Like we can't really find good peer-reviewed referenced literature. Yeah, you can find some blogs and you can find some, YouTube videos, which are great, but in certain cases, you cannot be sure whether the information what you get there is actually relevant and not just some sort of like a sales pitch from a company. So also these, so like white papers, what you can already find out there. Some of them are more like early stage experimental implementations, or are mainly focusing on the technology, on a specific technology rather than insight into lived experiences. So after realizing that, we said, okay, well, if they don't exist, let's start doing them. Let's start creating them. So the first approach to do so was to interview 3 educators, virtual production educators, and basically cross-reference the results with existing studies, and then identify the focus points, which in our case were the advantages, the challenges, and the practices. Okay, so after talking to these VP educators, we quickly realized that teaching virtual production is very complex. It's almost like running a one-person startup with an education while also pioneering a new educational paradigm. Basically, a virtual production educator needs to wear like multiple, and I really mean like multiple hats. They need to be like a technicians. They need to be like safety officers protecting the students and both the equipment, which is like super expensive. They also need to be like facility managers managing more than 130 students within one space. They also need to be like curriculum developers, then obviously researchers, and in certain cases translators, so like translating between the different academic languages, and also in most of the cases they need to have a pretty good understanding how marketing works, and to sell the advantages and the whys to the top management, because it's still a lot of money to get into virtual production. And obviously, last but not least, they need to be traditional educators as well. So, wow, I mean, this is a lot. Like having one person doing all of these would take like at least, I don't know, like 80 hours per week. Obviously, that's not possible. So you sort of have to have certain limitations by doing these. Then we try to focus on the advantages first, and basically when you get a virtual production stage in your institution, and you see all the possibilities for collaborations, first there's teaching virtual production techniques for students. So that's the first one. That's the basics. Then you also kind of have to get a good understanding how you can actually collaborate with the other domains, with the other academies within the university, because it actually makes a lot of sense to use the virtual production stage for different purposes. Like, for example, in our cases at BUAS, we have the what do you call it? Okay, I have a blank paper in front of me now. Not students, but the far out. Okay, let me quickly just check one thing. Tourism. That was the word I was looking for. Not that difficult, huh? Sorry about that. So basically, we have the Tourism Academy, and they approached us and asked us about training, because basically training students in the tourism academy in certain cases require them to travel somewhere, travel to a hotel, travel to a restaurant, etc., etc. But to be honest, we can simulate the whole experience in our XR stage and use it for other than just like filming something. We can actually create the atmosphere of being in a nice hotel or in a nice restaurant. So actually using the XR stage and thinking out of the box does make a lot of sense. And in certain cases, you don't even realize the first time when you are in an when you're in a virtual production in a virtual production stage, what it can be used for. But that's something what you as an educator need to focus on and need to think about, because having an XR stage and maintaining it and operating it still costs a lot of money. So the more you can actually rationalize it and the more you can actually showcase it to top management, the better chances you're gonna have to make it profitable and make it usable for the others as well. Also, it's important to mention the accelerated feedback cycles of a virtual production solution. So instead of just spending weeks or in certain cases months on iterating, you can actually do that within days quite quickly and easily. Also, I already mentioned about the interdisciplinary collaboration, and I think one of the most important and challenging part of virtual production is the time pressure simulation. So when you are shooting a stage or even on location, time pressure is a killer. So if a student doesn't have the opportunity or cannot have the opportunity to experience the time pressure, they're gonna be in trouble on set for sure. And last but not least, having a virtual production stage within an educational institution also provide the students with an additional tool in their tool set. It's not necessarily a must-have, but more of a nice-to-have. For example, in our cases, the game students, some of the game students are really happy to have something in their know-how in their tool set, which can be used even when they can't really find, for example, like a game development work for a few weeks or months. This is something what they can still, use and apply for a quick job to get some experience, get some money while waiting for the big game development game development job what they were looking for originally. So it is an advantage for all the students, but I'm also going to talk about the disadvantages or the challenges, because every advantage has challenges as well. And in our cases, we have a lot of challenges. So the first one is the student preparedness and access. So there's a very high entry barrier in the case of virtual production. There we can all see an uneven preparedness in terms of within the different academies. Like, for example, a student coming from the VFX or post-production with a VFX or post-production background, they're gonna have a much different understanding of game technologies and level sequences than a student having a game development background. Also, there's a bit of a perception disconnect. Some of the students either sort of like oversimplify or overwhelmingly overcomplify. No, there's no such a word, right? So overcomplification, something like that. Anyway, so basically, either they feel that the technology is just like it's simple, or they immediately like see it as like an unimaginable problem what they will not be able to solve at all, such as Unreal Engine. Like Unreal Engine has a very high learning curve, and it can be a daunting task for a student having only, let's say, visual effects experience. The other problematic part is the software fatigue. We all know that students love to learn some of the key softwares, but then as soon as they have a bit of a good understanding in one software, then it's quite challenging to convince them to learn another one. And in the case of virtual production, there's a whole ton of new softwares which need to be learned. Also, managing the classroom is quite difficult for the educators, especially because of the difficulties I just explained. Some of the students have a good understanding of Python, the others have a good understanding of the onset language like DLP, Gaffer, etc. Making them arrive to the same level is really challenging, especially given the short amount of time what a VP educator has. And another important point, and we see that quite often, students love to focus on the end result. They want to have like a short film. They want to have a nice environment. They want to have something for their portfolio. However, teaching virtual production means that they have to understand the process. They have to understand what it takes to actually go through the different issues, the challenges, how to solve some quick problems. What are the quick fixes, rather than actually focusing on the end product. And that's a major issue what we are facing, and it takes us quite a while to explain the students why they're not gonna have like one particular portfolio piece at the end of the virtual production course. Okay, another challenge is the interdisciplinary collaboration difficulty. So again, there's a lot of terminology barriers within virtual production. So the game students have no idea what a DOP or a Gaffer means. The VFX students don't have any idea about level sequences. They have to learn each other's languages. Also, there's a huge difference between workflows. Film students or VFX students tend to focus on the getting done. Let's make it happen. We have a limited time for finishing it, while game students are usually like more iterative, and they like to just like polish it and come back to it a little bit and make it better. And that's like, well, two whole completely different words. Also, there's again a difference between the timeline and quality expectations between the students. Game students are usually quite unhappy when they see their absolutely stunning and beautiful, fully fledged 3D environment in a shot completely blurred out in the background. So that's a problem. They also need to manage expectations. We also need to manage expectations and explain what it takes to create a good enough content for virtual production. And again, I already talked about the safety concerns. Students are quite unfamiliar with the physical production hazards, so they need to make sure. We need to make sure that they're not going to be hit by something falling from the ceiling. More challenges. See, I told you that there's more challenges than advantages, but it is what it is. We have to focus on these to actually help the students to become successful in virtual production. there's a bit of an infrastructure paradox in the case of virtual production education. There's a substantial investment from the very beginning, and an investment on something which can be quite obsolete within a few weeks, months, or potentially a few years. Also, there's capacity constraints. While an auditorium can have like 200-300 people easily, virtual production stage shouldn't have more than 30-40 students at the same time. So that's a problem. That's a scheduling problem. That creates a scheduling problem. Also, we need to make sure that the equipment is protected, which unfortunately limits the experimental flexibility, which is quite problematic because we all know that the best things happen when we have flexibility, when we have those like lucky surprises. We kind of have to find the balance between these two, extremes. Yeah, the educator skills lag. As the technology evolves like continuously, even the educators are finding quite difficult to be on the forefront and to have the most up-to-date knowledge. In certain cases, some of the students spending their lives online could have much better understanding what's happening in the virtual production world. And last but not least, recruitment is a pain in the back, because finding someone who has both technical knowledge and also pedagogical expertise in the field of virtual production is extremely difficult. And I promise this is going to be the last challenge, and then we focus on something more happy, something happier. There's still, as we already discussed, bit of a difficulty finding valid, referenced, and peer-reviewed information, frameworks, or even white papers, and it's quite difficult to make new curricula based on those limited white papers. Also, some online sources, while are available, some of them are more sales focused rather than fully fledged or well developed process focused. Also, the industry training limitation is also quite real. As I already mentioned, some of these informations are fragmented or more client focused than the real life focused. And the last point, the challenges in the challenges section, is the fact that we should be learning through experimentation, figuring it out while teaching. But I already explained that that's quite difficult because you also have to make sure that you're protecting the environment, you're protecting the student, and you're also ahead of all your students in terms of experience and up-to-date knowledge. But besides all these challenges, I think we can all agree that still working in virtual production is super exciting, and basically that gives a bit of an opportunity for both students and educators to work on something which doesn't have industry foundation, not foundations, but more like industry standards. You can actually be part of something which is evolving in these very moments, and then you can actually come up, or you can actually create something which no one has ever created, and you can become a standard as well, which is happening every single day here. But in order to be successful in virtual production, in the virtual production education, I would suggest all of you and all the future educators to use the existing infrastructure. As I already mentioned, as we already know, having a virtual production stage is quite expensive. So even if you don't have one, that shouldn't deter you from actually starting a virtual production course. You can, even if you have a big white wall, you can paint it green and start a compositing course in virtual production. And also, if you don't have it, look for others who have it and see what you can do together. Because in most of the cases, education institutions don't have all the knowledge in-house. For example, we as a gaming academy, we have a very deep knowledge in gaming technology, but we don't have an IT networking knowledge. We don't have a color science knowledge. And we shouldn't even be trying to create a course in those domains, because that would take us like years. So instead of just like spending a lot of money on creating courses what we have no idea about, we actually approached other universities in Germany, in the UK, in France, to collaborate, and it works like a dream. So I would highly suggest you to talk to others who actually already have the experience and the knowledge. Also, try to reframe the grading process within your educational institutions. Rather than focusing on the end product, try to focus on the actual process. I already mentioned that that's a bit of a difficult situation for the students, because they do want to see the end result, but they also have to get a better understanding of the process. Actually, they have to get a good understanding of the process rather than on the end product. And you should actually treat students as co-creators. As we already discussed, some of the students are quite knowledgeable already. They just like absorbed all the YouTube videos from behind the scenes, so they might have something what you have no idea about. Like, rather than trying to become the professor and the teacher and tell the students what to do, you should listen. You should actually actively get into conversations, discussions with them, and listen and see what you can put together. And last but not least, if you have the opportunity, build in exploration time into the curriculum, rather than having like a very strict hour-to-hour schedule. Have some fun, have some experiences together with the students. Come up with a quick idea for creating, let's say, a Christmas short film for the university or for the education institutions, or just ask a local company to come over and help them create something what they can actually use. I think that's something what's valuable for everyone. So the conclusion is basically based on the preliminary insights of the first year research, is that what we are seeing is that many advantages through virtual production training is not only for creative students, but also across disciplines. Significant implementation challenges with some promising strategies emerging. Universities have freedom to create knowledge that commercial contexts lack, and the possible ways forward are dive deeper into how students and educators actually overcome these challenges in practice, and map out and help build a knowledge base. And for the next presentation I'm going to be doing, I'm going to learn this by heart, because I just put this together this morning and still had to basically read it out loud. But yeah, I promise next time I'm going to be telling this by heart. Okay, so that was the literature review, and this part was focusing on education, but we did another part in this research which was focusing on the industry needs. So the first objective was to identify skill needs. The second one was to sort of like align education and industry needs. The way we did this was through qualitative, semi-structured interviews. We interviewed 7 virtual production specialists from Europe, and we're gonna be creating a report out of those interviews, and also that's gonna be available for the public next February. So let's see what we did there. We interviewed, as I mentioned, 7 interviewees. Out of the 7, these were the 5 which I'm going to be quoting today. So we had a VP supervisor from Finland, a good friend of mine, Adrian Weber, who is actually one of the best VP supervisors in Europe. We had Daniel Bényi from Hungary, head of virtual production at Asta Finland. We also had David Gray, ex-Lux Machina, who is now doing his own consultancy and doing some heavy lifting in virtual production. And we had two Dutch professionals, Igor Ryabchuk and Film The Build. So while we didn't really want to focus on the VP landscape, but like basically all the interviews started with that just by coincidence. So I thought I would just like put this slide up to have just basically the foundations laid out in front of us. We, I guess, all know what happened in 2021 with virtual production. COVID made this big hype of virtual production due to the fact that productions couldn't travel, so they could still use on set in studio locations, and that was the time when Mandalorian came up with this amazing reel about how they actually use the virtual production. Now we all know that most of those shots were not final pixels, but in any way it happened, and it actually helped the virtual production to get it onto this hype cycle. And then 2023 happened with all the strikes in the US, and then that also caused some of the studios, small and big ones, to close down, unfortunately. And that was a year where there were actually more professionals available than actual work. Now the situation is, I would say, getting better and better. And if you see the virtual production market research for 2030, it's quite promising. Hopefully, this is gonna be a trend what the virtual production industry is going to follow. If everything goes well, the industry will be worth almost $7 billion. So that's quite promising. Again, we have no idea what's going to happen, especially with AI. I'm going to talk about that later. Not too much, because Eric already talked about that yesterday, and I will not be able to get into the details as much as he did. So, but still, I'm gonna say some words about that. So during these interviews, we immediately saw that still virtual production is a terminology which doesn't really have like a specific definition. All the professionals had a a different understanding of, well, not understanding, like their understanding was quite similar. It was more about the definition, which were the definitions which were quite different from each other. I tend to like the one bottom right the most. Virtual production is a blend between traditional production and purely virtual filmmaking in any ratio, and I would put the emphasis on the in any ratio part, because it can be an avatar which was like completely virtual, but it can just be something where they used a virtual camera during pre-production. That's also something we can call virtual production. Besides the differences, there was one theme which was absolutely common, like it was like without a question, and that's the need for generalists. One of our interviewees said, you have to be a generalist. I used to be a director, before that a cinematographer, before that a VFX artist, before that a 3D artist. So basically it encompasses everything you need to know. Now it's a funny one, because when they say we need a generalist, we tend to think that it's just basically someone who knows a little bit about everything. And in the case of virtual production, the everything is a lot, like knowing IT networking, knowing color science, knowing real-time engines, knowing media servers, etc., etc. There's a lot, so you can't know all of these. But still, we hope that someone who we hire will have a decent understanding of all the technologies, and that's where it comes tricky. besides knowing a little bit about everything, we also like to have someone who has a specialized knowledge in one section, like a very deep specialized knowledge, let's say color science. And then it becomes even trickier because after talking to these professionals, it turned out that they don't just expect someone to have one particular deep knowledge in something, but rather maybe three. So rather than a T-shape, so like method or a T-shape understanding, they are looking for someone with an M shape. So having a decent knowledge of everything plus minimum one, but rather three like deeply specialized knowledge, which is not easy. Like it's quite difficult to find someone who has an M shape, so like a skill set. And also, if it's not enough, we also, or they also expect a virtual production professional to be a really good communicator. They also expect them to have an understanding of how people talk on set, how game developers talk within each other, and also how color science is jumble mumble about their sort of like very specific vocabulary. And especially this is especially true if your company or if your sort of like institution is rather small. Then you can't have the opportunity or the budget to have specialized people in each and every sort of like field. They really expect someone to have at least a good understanding of all those fields. Now that becomes very difficult already, and then we realize that there's another important thing here, which again makes this whole equation even more complicated. It's not just about technical skills. It turns out that VP professionals expect the other VP professionals to have amazing soft skills because they sort of like see the soft skill and the technical skill as almost like an equation. So if your soft skills is 0, then your technical skills will not matter. You will be an asshole on set, no one will want to work with you, and then you're gonna be out quite quickly. On the other hand, you can be the nicest person in the room, but if you don't have the technical skills, you're gonna be just like smiling there for a few days, and then you're gonna be off because people will realize that you're just like eating the sandwiches and drinking the coffee, but they can't really use you for anything. So this again made the whole equation way more complicated. And what are those soft skills, right? So basically, we all agree, like all the interviews listed the following ones as the most important soft skills. So curiosity, they really expect their colleague to be curious because, as I mentioned, the industry still doesn't have any sort of like hard standards. You actually have to figure almost everything out by yourself. If you don't know anything, if you don't know something, if you don't know the solution for a specific problem, you have to find it. You have to go for it. You have to be curious. It needs to come within you. It needs to be part of your sort of like way of doing things rather than just like waiting for the solution to come to your desk. Also, communication. This is pretty obvious. Like on set, you really need to make sure that you understand what the first AD wants from you. You really need to make sure that when you're talking to the color scientist, you have at least a bit of an understanding what he talks about and translate it to, let's say, to the Unreal Engine artist who has a completely different way of measuring light. So that really helps, and it's almost like fundamental for a professional working in virtual production. Adaptability, again, if you are a person who likes to just do the things as they were done the last 20 years, you're in the wrong ecosystem, you're in the wrong industry. You really have to be adaptable. You really have to make sure that if the I don't know, the vet supervisor come to you and ask ask about a change, you actually do that rather than like start having a very deep discussion about different methodologies and the different ways of doing things. That's not going to be a very long-term collaboration. And last but not least is obviously problem solving. Virtual production is full of problems. Like even just now, like setting up the audio was quite quick. We were quite lucky, but this could have turned into a 20 minutes fix by itself. And when we have a software like Unreal Engine at the stage, that can turn into a 2 days problem if you are not able to problem solve things and if you are not adaptable. And another skill what turned out to be quite important, not a surprise though. Obviously, if you're not interested in filmmaking, if you're not interested in the film production culture, you're gonna be struggling. You're gonna have some really difficult time, on site or at a studio. The industry expects you to have experience, to have not just experience but interest in filmmaking or in films, because when the creative people in a nice room try to come up with a nice shot, with a nice solution for their movie, they always use some previous examples, like, oh, have you seen in I don't know, in The Shining, that particular scene where the tension was really high? I want that in my movie. So if you haven't seen The Shining, you're gonna be a bit of like, yeah, okay, I will go home and we'll watch the movie. But if it's not really something what interests you, it's gonna be quite problematic. And to be honest, that's actually a good thing, because as a student or as a new professional trying to get into an industry, if you start to feel that, well, I'm not really interested in that, to be honest, you should leave. Like, why bother? Why try, putting years into becoming a film specialist if you go home and you don't care about films anymore? Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's time to find something else. Even like game students, we have a lot of game students who tried virtual production. They were like super enthusiasts, and like they came to the stage. They set up the Unreal Engine project, and then when it came to shooting and when it came to changing the lens or setting up the camera, they were not interested. And then by the end of the course, they had to realize that the virtual production is just not for them. They should just continue focusing on games. Obviously, after talking a lot about soft skills, technical skills are still like as important, as I already mentioned. A few themes which came up during the interviews: pretty standard real-time engine or programming technical skills, knowing about media servers or tracking systems. Color science is a big one. Like if you are into color, you can ask for anything at a production. I mean, at a high budget production, like color scientists are really like highly rewarded and sought after. Signal flow and SMTP 2110 standards are also quite crucial in the modern days of virtual production. AI. I should ask Eric to come on stage, but as I don't think we have that much time, so let me just quickly go through these AI-related slides. Obviously, we talked about AI with all the interviewees. What came up as a theme was the importance in AI in the pre-production phase, and one of the reasons why it's important in the pre-production phase is that if you use AI in the pre-production phase, that might not end up, or most probably that's not going to end up in the final production. So you're not going to have problems with ethics and legal, which is great. Obviously, as you can tell, there's like a huge sort of like gray area here, which we are all trying to sort of like solve later rather than focusing on it in these days. But again, this is going to change because as we sort of like progress with the legal and ethical implications of AI, they will get into production and post-production more and more. The reason why they don't get into production, or they couldn't get into production too much, is maybe the limited control. Like we all, I guess we all try to sort of like create a video or image, and then we liked the image or the video, but there was just like one tiny detail what we tried to change, and there was no way to get that done by the AI. We see some great improvements lately, but the software suites are still not in a shape to get into production. And I hope and guess that before they can get into production, the ethical and legal awareness will need to be focused on earlier. Having said that, we all need to make sure that when it comes to education, we are actually focusing, or we will have to focus on helping our students to actually get the right skill sets about artificial intelligence. So we need to actively engage and provide experience for our students. We also have to teach them how to critically assess the legal and ethical risks in AI. And there's one last but very important thing is that rather than using AI as like one of a quick fix, we should actually teach, educators should teach students about integrating AI solutions into the workflow, because standalone AI solutions will definitely not be the best way moving forward. They will have to be integrated into the already existing pipelines and workflows. So yeah, that was it. Let's quickly wrap it up. So what we found out the last year is that if you want to be a successful sort of like virtual production professional, you need to develop an M profile skills to become a generalist. You also need to prioritize reflexive development of soft skills, embrace and embed AI literacy across the curriculum, provides hands-on onset exposure, and last but not least, collaborate across institutions. Creative and technical schools can collaborate to stimulate real production teams. So that's it for now. What's next? So as I mentioned, this was just the first year. So this was basically the preliminary result of the first year research. We still have 3 more years to come. So we're gonna be sort of like replicating or redoing a similar research every single year. And we're going to be also like taking into consideration what we found out the previous year, and hopefully by the end of the 4th year we're going to have a very solid and peer-reviewed like white paper of the progress and of the next steps for all the different digital ecosystems, not just for virtual production, but also for animation, games, XR, and visual storytelling. If you want to follow the results and the findings, you can either follow us on LinkedIn. The LinkedIn page name is Avenue Cove, or you can just subscribe for our newsletter, or, and that would be the best, if you could just join as an associate partner. Although this is an EU-funded project, that doesn't mean that we can't have associate partners from all around the world. And as I consider Latin countries sort of like similar to the European, ecosystem. I'm pretty sure there's a lot to learn from each other, rather than again just working in silos and focusing on our own sort of like a little bubble. So I encourage you to get in touch with us and collaborate with us on the next 3 years research. That's it. Thank you so much. I hope you got some interesting information out of this presentation. And yeah, wishing you a great continuation of the conference. I guess tonight we're gonna have a party somewhere in the city. I mean, I will definitely have a party, so hope to see you somewhere in the city or potentially tomorrow at the conference. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Sultan, we do have some time
Oh.
for questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
If you have
Thank
still
you.
time, sure.
Thank you. I was wondering if I can ask you a technical question, or I just need to ask you questions related to the school.
It depends. Let's see.
Okay.
If it's really technical, I might not be the person to answer, but yeah,
Okay.
let's see.
So I just wanted to ask you if these days you can do the following scene in just a few drawings. I'm gonna tell you a little part of the scene. A woman is climbing up a tree.
Okay.
All right. She gives like 3 or 4 steps.
Mm-hmm.
Can you work with one drawing, or you have to make, as I know before it used to be thousands of drawings for very few moves. What about now? What can you work with?
When you say joints, what do you mean exactly?
Say again?
When you say joints, what do you mean exactly?
Drawings. A drawing of a woman climbing up a tree.
Mm.
To these days, the technical solution would require less drawings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Than before. With how many drawings? I'm not saying exactly how many, but roughly.
I have no
Let's say-
idea. Sorry about that. Eric, you have any idea about that?
I'm sorry?
In this situation, with an AI tool, we'll only have to create the first frame and then
Oh, okay.
In the situation, you would do your first frame or your first drawing, and then you would either do your
Drawing.
final frame
Joint.
or you would do a couple in between
Yeah.
to guide the performance, and it will fill in or recreate the next. But I wouldn't call that virtual production. I would say that's just straight AI.
I'm sorry, that's a straight AI thing?
That's just straight
Yeah.
AI.
So well, let's say let's say you would move a foot, right? Go up. She would make a little face with an effort. She would release the effort and the face, and so you would need like 5 or 6 drawings, right?
So
For a few seconds, right?
yeah, so if you look at a tool like Asteria, Moon Valley has a piece called Mary, and Mary can do up to like 167 frames or frames. So you can describe within that process the particular frames and the looks that you are looking for.
Are you
So
based
it
in
is
Santiago?
possible.
Are you based in Santiago?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
But-
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I completely misunderstood you. I've heard joints, not drawings. Sorry.
I have a question. Which are some good sources for starting educational programs for virtual production? I just discovered this. This is like huge because we are from Ecuador. In Ecuador,
Mhm.
the industry is like zero.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of universities we are like the only virtual production field company. So they are always approaching us to start virtual production programs and educational programs. And we have studied a lot abroad, but we don't have like there are no principal sources where we can like this is educational
Mhm.
based. We only have, like you said at the beginning, forums, epic games, learning and stuff like that. But what would you recommend for us?
This
That's the virtual production student.
basically that was a 3 years project, and what we wrapped up earlier this year. And fortunately enough, we applied for a continuation of this project So we got the funding. So we are actually continuing this project, Virtual Production Skill Network 2. And basically the idea is exactly what you just like explained. Like we wanted to create sort of like a Kickstarter platform for virtual production. Yeah, absolutely. So you can find all sorts of information about like setting up this course, creating the curricula, making sure or helping the teachers to get a good understanding of all the technologies behind virtual production, potential course materials, potential like references or potential projects what the students can actually start with. So this is exactly what you would need to start your
And when you talk about
course.
investment for the universities, what would you recommend for the beginning? Like I saw that you have a small wall, LED wall.
Yeah.
We do a lot of green screen virtual production. So what in your experience you think it's the best?
Yeah, I think the green screen is great. It's a great start, especially as all the tools like even like Unreal Engine has a great compositor tool within the system. So you can actually just start using that, and that will already give you a very good understanding how virtual production works. And you can even like use a bigger LED TV to start. So like the LED side of virtual production. So you don't need to have like a volume right away. I would even say before actually buying a volume, let's start a course and see how it goes, how students are reacting to that, and then make the investment. Yeah, that's a big step. That's like you don't have to start. You shouldn't start with that, to be honest.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Anyone else?
Oh, Carlos, come on.
I know I can ask you
You're
this
making me
later,
sweat.
but I'm pretty sure there are another educators here that maybe are a little shy to ask. But the first thing is, I remember a couple years ago,
Yeah.
there was a few educators around the world that started to have like a group, you know, and we was trying to establish like the rules to teach virtual production because you know it becomes like an anarchy, you know.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of misunderstanding, and Jamie, don't take me wrong, but obviously everybody thought that was just about to learn Unreal Engine, but you say you need to learn networking, you need to learn a lot of stuff that maybe is not there. But the question is, are you interested, and maybe your grade will take in some moment the idea to try to establish the rules next to another universities that have some programs that are more mature than early universities to try to do something globally? Do you think would be an idea?
To be honest, at least that's what I see and experience. It's happening organically. So even the virtual production gathering, like that was supposed to be first a national event, then it became quickly a European event, and just last year we had education like representatives of education institutions coming from the US, which I was quite surprised about. So apparently the difficulty in virtual production is that we all have to figure things out by ourselves, but that creates the opportunity to collaborate. And unfortunately, I mean that's what we are experiencing. What we are experiencing in the Netherlands. We do have budget issues. Like governments decided to reduce educational budgets because of putting the money to the defense side of the government, which is quite a problematic issue, but let's not get into that. But that also means that while we had the opportunity to buy the LED volume, now we don't have the opportunity to spend as much as before, which is a problem, but obviously every problem has a bit of an opportunity in it. And I think and I see that that's sort of like happening all around the world. Like universities are getting a bit of a difficulty in having enough budget. So not having enough budget, what can we do? Let's reach out to someone who already has that what I need, and that's a great thing. That's a great opportunity. On the other hand, we still have these like different bubbles of like Europe, US, Latin America. And that's why I'm really happy, and thank you for inviting me for this event, because I think that's a great opportunity for all of us to share and care, and not spend money and time on something which have already been so like managed and solved somewhere else. So it's happening. We just need to make sure that it's happening quicker, because the industry is changing drastically, and I have the feeling that with AI, like this will become a completely sort of like never before seen change, especially in the education institutions curricula, that we have to drastically change. So let's collaborate.
Thank you. I have another question.
Okay.
Is Avenue Project interested just in projects, or no, in research related to create content, or is there an opportunity for technical research? You know, more like based on computer science techniques, or more technical stuff.
So as you could see, the first year was about setting the standards, setting the foundations. So based on the first year's results, we're gonna be focusing on the different so like findings, and one is definitely technical. Without technical research, it will be very difficult to get deeper into virtual production. So we just need to make sure that we're gonna be focusing on the right technical skills and problems, because what was a problem 3 years ago in virtual production might not be a problem today. So we have to make sure that whatever we are focusing on, hopefully it's going to be relevant in 2 to 3 years. So yes, we are going to focus on technologies and tech issues as well.
My question was very related to that. We have a educational volume in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I think since 2021, 2022, and the main problem that we face every year that we teach the course about virtual production is that everything changes so fast, and we can't even use recordings from previous years because it's impossible. The speed of the plugins, the software, Unreal, and mostly the hardware, it's very, very fast. I think the software is faster than hardware, of course, but my main issue is when we design the classes, is that we try to be agnostic, about the hardware especially, because the first thing that I notice going to different volumes in the world is that they have everything different. They have different setups in every place. So how do you handle that problem in this specific course? How do you teach that part?
Yeah, so basically we are not teaching in an educational environment. What I mean is that we are actually forming project groups with the students. So rather than like having like a very specified curricula, we have a project. So based on the advancements and changes in technology and softwares, and also like solutions, every year we sit down with the educators and the research development division team members, and do a bit of a brainstorming together to see what changed, what we need to update, and what are the best, so like new use cases, what we can actually give to our students. So rather than teaching the same things again and again, we actually get all the students into separate groups and provide a project which will hopefully meet all the new updates and changes in virtual production. Like, let's say that I try to come up with an example what happened. Unreal was definitely something which changed the game, and then when we also realized that while we all want to and like to work in a fully fledged 3D environment, which obviously Unreal Engine helps us to create, we kind of had to realize that one of the best use cases for virtual production is 2D video plates. It is what it is. It's quite boring, right? Like it's one of the most boring part of virtual production, but it looks great. It adds value. It has a real value proposition for production companies and for producers. So rather than trying to force Unreal Engine to each and every one of our students, we actually created separate project groups where if a game student wanted to create his own 3D environment, he could be part of the Unreal Engine related project group, and another student who was more interested in visual effects or post production, then he could just be part of the 2D plate recording project group. So we try to mix and match all these advancements and make sure that again, going back to the M shape, it's valid for the use cases as well. Obviously, it's important to have a good understanding of all the different techniques what's out there. We provide that to our students, but then we also give them the opportunity to specialize on one of the, I don't know, 5, and that actually helps them to really progress in a way what they imagined as being their future profession. Because again, as I mentioned, most of the times we are struggling to explain what virtual production is for game students. And it's something what I think is valuable to all of them, but we also understand that it's not going to be the best opportunity for some of them who really want to make sure that they are just going to create the best AAA game. Having said that, I think what we also see is that while, let's say, 3-4 years ago, a game student could easily get into Microsoft or Electronic Arts or any game development companies. This is not the case anymore. Especially with the advancements in AI, we all see that the number of gaming opportunities are decreasing or changing. Let's put it this way, changing. So if a student coming up from a university wants to make sure that he will have a proper job quite quickly, then they might need to understand that it might not happen overnight, and also maybe the road to become a game developer or a game artist is gonna be bumpier and more difficult than he or she originally realized. They might need to first get into an automotive company working on visuals on the head-up display, or they can get into events, creating some nice visuals for a music band, or any other thing, because the digital ecosystem is huge, is vast, and the way to get into the ideal job is not going to be as simple as, let's say, 10 years ago. So yeah. Anything else?
Any more questions? All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your attention.